Good evening, welcome ladies and gentlemen to a brand new episode of The Untold. I'm your host Abdullah Hindiani.
And I'm your host, Al-Athari, and today we're joined by Khalil Ibrahim, who's a newly graduated doctor who also advocates for a healthy lifestyle, which is great to hear.
It is honestly, being a doctor is such a time-consuming kind of field, and then to spend your extra free time to actually work on your health is something amazing, right? It's a complete equation of balance, right? And we are going to sit down to talk to him all about that, how he manages it, how he finds the time to do both those worlds, how everything is possible.
I agree, especially because as we both know, like studying medicine is not an easy task, and to graduate and even try to, have a job in it, it's really overwhelming. It's very stressful. So how we can find the time to balance his lifestyle, I'm very interested in here.
You're interested, Lujain. I'm interested. Hopefully the audience are interested. We are going to come down after the break to sit down and talk to him. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. But most importantly, thank you, Khalil Ibrahim, doctor, for being here with us to educate us all about, the medical field and, of course, your fitness journey as well. So thank you for being our guest.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. You guys are real. I always saw you guys on Instagram. They're very eloquent when they talk in English.
No.
And I want to be a part of this. Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate you saying that. It's always great to hear that, and it's a pleasure to have you. And I wanted to ask you, because you're a newly graduated doctor and you're also a fitness advocate, so you live a healthy lifestyle. So how do you balance those two sides? Because being a doctor is kind of very consuming, isn't it?
It's just hard work.
Yeah.
I just graduated recently. My tongue is tongue tied. I'm not the best. I try to balance between life and hopefully applying for work. Food is so
It's delicious.
You're gonna
indulging. It's the calories. I mean, does it matter? It doesn't really matter. As long
as long as you're healthy.
Of course, I remember my principal back in high school. She said, "Work hard and play harder." So whatever you basically put into your body, try to burn it off.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I think I lost track of what you just asked earlier.
Oh, I just asked you how you manage to balance those things.
So I usually try and find the best community to basically integrate with, and then basically find whether we actually align with in terms of our goals or not. So usually I have a group of friends that I go and work out at a certain gym. I'm not going to say its name. I'm not doing any advertisement. And we just push ourselves. So I've been doing CrossFit since 2017.
Mashallah.
And before that I did bodybuilding for 10 years. But I love the extremity, I don't like your typical let's hit certain reps and then you take a 3-minute break every let's say set. I enjoy the high intensity, pushing yourself, apply the work, and then as soon as you're done with the whole exercise, you get to reward yourself and eat. And then do it all over again. It's I remember this one amazing guy that I met a few years ago. He was my first personal trainer. He said, apply 1% every single day. It's technically a formula. So please look it up afterwards if you guys are interested. If you open a bracket, 1.0, and then you just add that 1%, close the bracket. How many days are there in a year?
365.
365. So you add 365 at the very top. If you click enter on the calculator, you know how much you get?
No, how much?
That's 37 times the effort by the end of the year.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I never thought of it that way.
1% every single day.
Yeah. It's like how they say, if you're building steps, you're not going to see the end result, but it's one step after the another.
Of course.
Next thing you know, you're sky high.
Of course.
Yeah. But I do want to ask you, and this is a great reminder for audiences here, that there's no excuse, right? For a lot of people, they say, oh, we don't have the time. Then you ask them, they say, oh, we take 7-hour naps. But, yeah. But mashallah, you've gone through medical school, which is so intensive, which is so time consuming.
Of course.
But you also found the time to go into and put those, powerlifting tools into effect with your group of friends. And so you managed to find all of this, which brings me to my next question is that how intensive was your, studying experience, especially abroad?
It was technically a fail attempt and then try again.
Okay.
Basically, and then try to adapt throughout the day. During the day, again, the program is very hectic. There are a lot of subjects. We have to deal with six to eight subjects per semester,
Oh, mashallah.
and
Wow.
each one is even more demanding than the other. And then I know this sounds very weird, but listen to your body. You know, sometimes your brain is extremely burned out, fried. You know, that's when the food comes in. You know, listen to your body, and then basically whatever, like I said earlier, whatever you eat, try to burn it off afterwards. I usually try and get at least 10K steps per day. I don't usually hit that, but anything along the line,
Yeah.
you know, the range between 8 to at least 12 or 15 is like I said earlier, a 1% step forward.
Yeah, something is always better than nothing, right?
Of course.
So even if you don't have time to do all the other stuff, just doing, like you said, just getting the steps,
Correct.
it makes a difference if you're not doing anything and just sitting and watching TV and eating all
Of
day.
course.
And it's funny to me that, like, you know, because I agree with you entirely that food is an indulgence. Like, I love food. Abdullah really loves food as well. And one of our favorite things to do after we finish here is we go home and we order some food and we enjoy it.
You guys need to give me a list.
I think Abdullah has a list.
Yeah, I do have a list actually.
And like, that's the thing is like, yes, I could try to be my super fit and this and everything, but I like food. I like to treat myself sometimes.
Yes.
I like to be able to enjoy my life. And I feel like a lot of people, they focus so much on end results only that they
Yes.
forget that it's a journey sometimes. So I wanted to ask you that, what does it mean for you particularly? Like, what does a healthy lifestyle mean for you?
I've never really thought about this until now. I was thinking about this earlier before. I was like, we keep misunderstanding social media.
Yeah.
And we always compare ourselves to the people on our phones and in the mirror. And we don't really match the end result. So my advice, or if you will, my advice would be never compare.
Yeah.
You know, if it's possible to not expect and just persevere and be determined, and that would be a nice way to basically be positive. To have is that a thing? Being body positive?
Yeah.
Yes. So being body positive at the end of the day.
I love that. I think that's really great advice.
It is. And I also love how you brought the idea of not believing everything on social media, especially when it comes to body composition. Because I know a lot of people in the fitness world who get into a good shape for maybe 1 month in the year, and then they take 1 billion photos.
Of course.
And then they just forget all about them. They eat whatever. But throughout the whole year, they keep releasing the same photos from that 1 month.
Yes.
And a lot of people say like, oh, you're this and that for the entire year. How's that? And then that's how they grow their platform. So, you know, social media, like you said, it's such a blight or a disease when it comes to body images and body composition. Because even outside of that, you're seeing a person's, you know, step 20 when you're in your first step,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, you shouldn't take everything there. And with that being said, you know, when you were studying, I'd imagine it was time consuming. So what was a lot of the hardest thing about maintaining, you know, a healthy lifestyle, as opposed to the time consuming efforts that the studying and your rotations took out of you?
The thing is, I'm not a cook. I don't know how to
Yeah.
cook. I didn't really put in the time, because when you're abroad, there's no time to learn
Yeah.
new skills. You know what I mean? You come back home after, let's say, an 8-hour, let's say, shift, you know, at university, or the hospital shift, and you basically have to prepare the meals, prepare the cutlery, and then you have to basically clean that afterwards. And you sit there, you're like, this is so consuming. By the time you're done, you don't really have the time to actually sit down, look at a book or a word, and then basically compromise and understand. So I ordered many times. After ordering, I would actually put in the time to actually go for that walk. It's not the right thing to do, but you can always start with this, you know, that one step that you mentioned earlier, and that one step can eventually become a jog, and then that jog becomes a run.
Yeah.
You made me reminisce.
Yeah, it's a walk through memory lane.
It wasn't nice.
Yeah, I totally understand because it's also got me reminiscing on my own university days.
Yeah.
And honestly, I also couldn't cook and I wasn't gonna learn because I was just very bad in the kitchen. Like things I would do just didn't make sense. Like I somehow messed up pot noodles the first time I made them. And everyone in my dorms could not understand how I'd messed this up because it's literally just adding boiling water to a cup. And I was like, I've never been in a kitchen before, guys. Like, I don't know what's happening. This is a new world for me.
Yeah, I understand.
And I have a really big sweet tooth. So a lot of the time I would just focus on eating sugary things and chocolate, and that, especially during more stressful times, if I had essays or exams and you're in the library, you're cramming, you're trying to type out an essay, you're trying to do something, I'd find the easiest thing to do would just be eating junk food.
Yeah.
Like I would just be eating like chocolate bars all the time.
Do you know why?
Why?
Your brain needs at least 20% of the energy to actually function. And that's why carbohydrates are the fastest way to actually break down to get energy.
You know, I never knew that.
20%.
And it makes sense because I remember all of uni being in the library, just eating chocolate bar after chocolate bar and like just having so many sweets because that's, and like, you know, being wired on caffeine basically.
Yeah.
And during those stressful times, that's what kept me going. It was not healthy at all. I would not recommend it to anybody at all. I think everyone in uni goes through that phase at least once, if not multiple times, depending.
Of course.
But did you have any kind of tips or habits that helped you stay on track during stressful periods?
I mentioned this earlier. Fail and then try again. Because again, you're never going to be satisfied, you know? I mentioned earlier, if you remember, I love the extremes. So I remember this one time, I just focused solely on running. And then I ended up looking like Kenyan runner. I didn't like that, you know? And then I focused completely on bodybuilding. And I was extremely round and huge. If I break this, I'm sorry. I was round and huge and didn't really feel good about myself. Imagine sleeping and then you wake up, you know, choking on your own saliva because you have heartburn.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's terrible, you know? That's a wake-up call. You know, you realize you're not doing a good job. Your body's trying to tell you something, and you need to completely change your lifestyle.
And it's always best to listen to your body. And we are going to go on a break, but this reminds me also, you know, I'm sorry to reminisce as well, because during my heaviest, I got GERD or whatever it's
that's called GERD.
Yeah, acid reaction. And I remember the feeling. I thought I was being suffocated while asleep. I went to the doctor. I was like, "What is happening?" And he's like, "This and that did for your weight." That's what got me into losing weight. So, like you said, it's best to listen to your body. With that being said, we are going to take a break, so stay tuned.
And we're back from that short break. So I love how before the break we were all reminiscing on our journeys, especially in uni, and you know how health plays a big role, and you know also not paying attention to health is really bad because you got to listen to your own body, and without that, you know, you're not going to get anywhere, and everyone's kind of individual. So I did want to ask you if you think that lifestyle is more important than kind of following a fitness routine in general for people. Like, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to basically give you a moment that happened in my life. I was cramming late night, studying for an exam. Basically, it's called a mini OSCE. A mini OSCE is basically you have to basically wake up all dressed up, and then you have to look good, and then basically answer a couple of questions before going to an OSCE exam. An OSCE exam is basically an oral basically technically like this,
like
you know, an oral exam where a doctor basically examines on your knowledge and the scenario that you have to be put in. I drank a lot of caffeine that night, and I tried to stay up. I stayed up until like 5 a.m. in the morning, and the exam was probably around 8. I was like, I need an hour's sleep.
Oh, no.
I missed that exam.
Oh yeah, I had a feeling that was going to happen.
So as soon as they needed a medical excuse to make me retake the exam. So when I went to basically get a physical exam, and they took my blood pressure, and they saw it was around 170, 180 over 80.
Oh wow.
That is abnormal.
Is that good or bad?
That is extremely bad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That is a medical emergency.
Oh.
I need to be taking antihypertensives, which is basically blood pressure medications. And
it's crazy you actually had the excuse.
Yes, you know. So having a lot of caffeine is very bad for you. It was a bad experience, and that's when I realized, okay, I need to cut down on the caffeine. Lifestyle is very important. You need to basically do everything in moderation.
Yeah.
Too much of everything is bad for you. Too much too much of, you know, junk food and sweets we talked
Yeah.
about earlier is bad, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, the key term here is moderation, because even for
Thanks.
caffeine, I think the daily recommended caffeine is 400 milligrams or something. But I know for a fact that a lot of my friends and family members, you know, overshoot that number by maybe 1,000 or even more. A lot of
There's
people
no
don't
need.
realize how much caffeine they're taking.
Yeah, there's no need to do
Yeah.
that.
So I do want to ask you on the topic of caffeine, because it relates to stress and everything. Like during a lot of those stressful times, how did you manage to keep on track, keep focusing on remaining, you know, on a good path when it comes to your health, when it comes to your, you know, actual physical, you know, well-being?
Go for walks, clear your mind, exercise hard. It releases endorphins. Basically, endorphins are your body's antipsychotics. You know when those they're antidepressants.
Yeah.
You know when you're feeling depressed, you're feeling down and low. Your body produces basically some kind of euphoric feeling that says, "Oh, you know what? It's okay." You know, let's. It's instead of, you know, those people that stand at the very edge of the mountain and basically yells, "Yes, I feel good about myself." It's technically that, you know. And then drink plenty of water, and then basically have a good community to basically go back to. Being able to basically socialize and sit down and talk is a nice way to basically vent, you know. And obviously family,
Yeah.
you
Sure.
know, a nice social group that you can actually belong to. I think those are the most important.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, because I think a lot of people underestimate the value of social connections, especially in times of stress and other issues. And being able to have someone you can talk to or vent or just be with in certain times can make a big difference, I think, psychologically in your body. Like I had an issue, I remember in uni when I was writing one of my dissertations, and for 1 month before it, I felt like I'm behind, and I just cut off everybody. I went into like a hole for 1 month where I was just trying to focus on it. And when I finished, I was completely burnt out, and I was anxious, and I was stressed, and my sleep was terrible. And it was a lesson for me as well that I like went too deep into one end. It was like an extreme almost of trying to focus on, you know, the studies and everything. So I did want to ask you, because you mentioned being kind of extreme yourself with some things. Like, did you ever suffer from burnout? And if you did,
All the time.
how did you deal with it?
All the time. I remember you mentioned earlier before we went into the break, you love playing PS4 or PS5.
Anything called
Anything
PS
console?
How can you from PS1
So I
to
play
PS5?
a couple of games.
Yeah.
And then hiking, because I study in Jordan. I went hiking a couple of times.
Amazing.
And then I lived in a small city up north. So basically it was very rural. You know, it was farmland, and a lot of people didn't speak English. So I went to the capital and hung out a couple of times. It was an hour drive, very beautiful. And then you're taking me back. I miss those days.
It's a lot of going back through the
Yeah.
days.
Memory
But you know, I think I'm kind of lucky in that kind of aspect, because the way you both talk about your studies, I had it completely different. You know,
What do you mean?
my studying days were on cruise control.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were
Autopilot?
they were
No.
such a, you know, I would say such an easy path when it comes to stress levels. I'm probably, you know, I don't know, maybe I did something wrong. Maybe I stole
no.
my degree.
Probably
But
did it right.
Yeah, you definitely did it right. You
yeah,
know?
but I was gonna say that, you know, because I had a lot of free time, I did pick up cooking, and I think that's one of the biggest factors that helped me drop a lot of weight, is that I know what to put into my body as opposed to what goes into from restaurants or whatever, you know, from those kind of places. But I do want to ask you, you know, has there been any moment in your path where you were doubting your career or your choices or the walk that you took, you know, any kind of those thoughts?
I wanted to stop every single time.
Oh,
Because being abroad, away from family, and then living on your own. Yes, I'm a mature student. But the thing is, tackling life in a different country is
taxing.
is very challenging. It is it's like I it's a huge handicap or an obstacle, you know. It's adjusting to a new place, a different environment where you have to understand the, let's say, it's not really regulations, it's the norms, what is acceptable and what's not, you know. And then not everyone would understand certain traits or certain habits that you tend to do, you know. And then if you say no, it's technically an offense or an insult for some, you know. But was it a life-changing experience? Tremendously.
Yeah.
You know, it shaped me into how I am now. I was gullible. I was too nice. Now I can actually see what certain, let's say, life cues can actually lead to, you know. I'm like, I've been there before. I'm not taking that step anymore, you know, and I kindly refuse.
No, I completely get where you're coming from, because I had the same experience as well. Like, living abroad was a huge challenge. It was so different from everything I've ever known. I went from being very sheltered living in Kuwait, and then I was studying in London, and it was a huge difference.
Gap.
Big culture shock, but I wouldn't take it back for anything. I learned so much about myself, and I made amazing friends, and I made mistakes as well, but that was all part of the journey.
Of course,
you know,
it
and
shapes you up.
yeah, that's kind of how you become the person that you are, as you so eloquently said. So, you know, going back to the more like health aims of, you know, what we're talking about, as a doctor, since, you know, that's what you're becoming, which is very commendable, by the way, because it's not an easy thing to do, especially when you're living abroad and doing all that stuff. I do want to ask you, because I think a lot of people focus a lot on treatment, but would you say that prevention is more important?
I just want to add, if you don't mind, people tend to go towards treatment because it's the easy way out. It's the best shortcut ever. Getting the gastric sleeve or taking Ozempic, which is, again, it's not that beneficial, because in the long run, once you stop taking Ozempic, for example, there's something called a rebound.
Yeah.
So gaining weight is a lot faster than maintaining your body weight. Prevention, again, is those baby steps that you mentioned earlier, the small habits that you create along the way. It only takes 21 days to actually create a habit. Though, you know, let's say start with a 1K walk, you know. If you get bored completely, you know, shorten it. If you want something even more challenging, and then add that 1 kilometer, you know. The food, we add so much oil and salt to our food. It's not really that healthy. Keeping everything to a minimum. And I don't understand why people love to fill up the plate, you know. You know,
I think
I've
it's
been there.
cultural almost as well.
But it makes it even more appealing, you know, when the plate is extremely full. But again, you don't really need all of that. You just need a handful.
Yeah. I think I read somewhere that once you eat, because a lot of people, if they are hungry, because their digestive system is not as fast as you know, perceive it to be. So if you're eating a lot, you don't really feel full, as opposed to, and you don't know when to stop. But if you eat, and then once in a while when you're eating, you stop, let the food go in, and actually let your body see that it actually ate, you're going to be like, oh, I'm full now, I can stop eating. But because people don't give their body that break, they continue eating,
Sure.
eating, they go way overboard.
I love what you just said. We eat with our eyes first before we actually, you know,
Yeah,
put it
100%.
in our mouth.
Yeah. With that being said, I do want to thank you for joining us today,
Thank you,
because
bro.
unfortunately we did run out of time. But thank you again for a lot of educated talk about, especially keeping a healthy lifestyle. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, you guys.
No, it was a pleasure to have you, and I'm glad we got to reminisce as well together. That was fun.
It's an honor.
And with that, we are going to take a very quick break. And that was all we had for today. And honestly, Abdullah, I loved talking to Khalil. He was so calm, so collected. I loved his philosophy on life. I loved how he was able to, you know, do such a hard thing like study medicine and graduate in it, but still have time to, you know, power lift or, you know, do CrossFit amongst other things.
He was, you know, and I love how one of the common threads that united all of us during the segment is that how all of us studied abroad, and then we shared, you know, those moments together. And he was like, got a little bit of emotional talking about memory lane. So I do love how the conversation segued into aspects of life that we don't really share. So we are very thankful for him.
I agree. It was so much fun talking to him, and it was fun going down, you know, that trip on memory lane for all of us. And I do love that he left us with how it's important to kind of just do 1% every day. Like, a little bit goes a long way, and you don't have to do it all. Just try to focus on being healthy and what that means for you. It's not about the end result. It's just about kind of doing what's best for yourself.
It is doing what's best for yourself. And you know, as always, what's best for me is going to barbecue place after this show. We are going to wrap this today's episode so we can have dinner with you as well, dear audiences. Until next episode, goodbye for now.
Goodbye and see you next time.